I really like a quote I saw attributed to you that says, "You said most limits aren't real, they're learned." I've been rereading some books, The Big Leap. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, and what to say when you talk to yourself about self-talk. And so I've been rereading some literature that sort of focuses on the messages we've had from the time we were young and how we incorporate that into our thought process, and we place these artificial limits on ourselves and think that we're not capable of doing things. So I really like your quote. Could you sort of talk about that a little bit? You feel like limits aren't real. How do you find your limits?
That's a great question. Growing up, I would have probably said that limits were real, and I was very limited of who I was as an individual in my younger years. And I think whenever I broke into getting into the Navy and trying to become a SEAL, that's where I really learned that I can do whatever I want in this life.
Yeah.
And it took some time for me to realize this after I quit Hell Week in Buds, which was one of the biggest takeaways from the Navy for me, was that I can literally go do whatever I want as long as I put my mind and my physical power towards it, or whatever it may be. And so I adopted that mindset, and I brought it with me to Colorado and started using that towards mountain endeavors, climbing mountains, breaking speed records, for example. And I realized that if you want it, you can will it.
Yeah. So interesting.
I love that.
That realization came. So like, what was the thought process of quitting Hell Week? Was it just like, you know what, I can do anything I want, and this is not what I want? Is that kind of where your mind was at? Or was it like, this shit is hard, excuse my language, or was it like, this is
Enough
hard,
of this.
Yeah.
and it's definitely not for me, and I could do anything except this?
Sure.
Like, walk me through that.
And I think I could go back and do it if I wanted to. I just don't think I want to, and I don't think I wanted to. I think it was a false mask that I put in front of myself, trying to establish myself as a person, reinventing myself essentially, and then realizing that this was not who I really wanted to be.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to keep the hair.
Yeah, I had to cut my hair when I went. It was probably half the length, and I shaved it right off.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, welcome.
It's just an interesting concept of like being in Buds, being in that program. And I mean, obviously we've all seen the documentaries or videos or movies, and it is hell on earth, and going, I could do anything. I'm out.
yeah, I didn't have that while I was there.
Right.
It came after the fact.
Okay.
Just being able to put myself in the position to go to Buds, for example, was one of the biggest pieces of transformation for my life. Prior to that, I had really been doing nothing in life. I had been running around with the wrong crowds, experimenting with the wrong things, and just not living a quote unquote good life and going down the right path. And so when I look back at this old me essentially and look at what I've, turned it into, Buds is honestly easy now that I think about it. I could go back and I think I could do Buds, but I don't want to.
Right.
So it's a mindset that I adopted after the fact. And I think when I was in Buds and going through that process, I was still trying to learn this, and I wasn't mentally wise enough at that age of 22 or 23 to understand this all.
And I think that's extremely healthy because like, I was 6 years in the Marine Corps Reserves, and my relationship with that is very, like most people don't even know I was in it because I never bring it up, because in my mind, I was never deployed, therefore was I ever really in?
Sure.
And to somebody that served 4 or 5 tours in a combat zone, that's probably an accurate mentality. But to somebody who never even thought about serving, like, so it's a relative scale of service or whatnot. So just having the thought to even try, relative to somebody who's never even gotten off the couch, is massive. So,
I completely agree with that.
yeah.
It's so great that you recognized during that process, unless you said it was afterwards, that maybe I can do this, but this isn't. I've set myself up to do this because somehow that allows me to redefine myself. But you recognize that wasn't the path, and at the same time, it empowered you afterwards. It changed your life. Was there some cathartic event leading up to that led you to go through that process?
To the Navy in general?
Yeah, you said that you weren't living the right life.
Right.
And so you must have had a moment where you went, I'm going to change who I am. I'm going to go do this thing.
I've had several of those moments leading up to that.
Right.
And it started probably in my high school years, where I started I learned what, drugs and alcohol were, for example, and I
Right.
really started to experiment. And I was an athlete. And so I had my senior year of football taken away from me for failing a drug test for smoking weed, for example.
Yeah.
And so I got to experience, loss and heartbreak from using and abusing certain substances.
Yeah.
Watched friends pass away. My best friend from high school, he passed away from an overdose several years later.
Yeah.
And my other best friend from high school was in and out of the prison systems. And so I was a part of this crowd doing things that aren't right.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a Christian household. My parents were as supportive as you could ever imagine. They came to all my sporting events. So like the structure that I had behind the scenes was what anybody would think is quite perfect, right? And for me, I was just like, I want to see what the other side of the coin's like.
Yeah.
And I sure did. I experienced all of it: death, overdose, loss, friends going in and out of the systems. And at one point, I found myself in the middle of an abuse cycle, and I had two different dreams who correlated between heaven and hell. I used a substance,
Yeah.
and I went to sleep and was in heaven and like picturing my life with all the things I could have ever wanted and like living the absolute dream life. And so then I woke up, hit it again, went back to bed, and was living in hell. And it was the most terrifying experience of my life, hearing and feeling and smelling suffering and pain, where I woke up and I called my mom and I asked for help right then and there.
Wow.
And for the next year after that, I was in and out of rehab systems until I gained the ability to go play college football.
Wow.
I reached out to an old school who offered me a scholarship, an NAIA school, and they said that they would give it back to me like 3 years later. And so throughout my process at rehab, the rehab was ran by an ex-NFL football player, Isaiah Robertson.
Yeah.
So I got to learn and train with him and some of the guys that were close to him and really gain my skills back and my confidence to go back out to the field and play. And I went to school, broke my ankle a month into practice. There it goes, gone. And so I get, pushed back down to this cycle of, okay, now what am I going to do? How am I going to reinvent myself again? And so the Navy thing sparked at a party I was having at my grandparents' lake house one night. And this kid was talking, I don't even know the guy's name anymore. He was talking about going to the Navy and he mentioned Navy SEALs. And I was like, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
And literally right then when he told me the whole process, I called my dad the next day, and sure enough, one of his Young Life kids from the church ministry stuff that he did back in the day was a Navy SEAL, and he lived right down the street. So 2 days after that, I was talking to a former Navy SEAL, training with these guys, being mentored by, some of the highest warriors in the United States, and was on the path to reinventing myself again. So there's like this multitude of low points to these reinventions of.
That's an extraordinary story. Thank you for sharing that, and congratulations.
Thank you.
It sounds like you've reinvented your best version of yourself at
I
this
appreciate
moment
it.
in time.
I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
Do you think doing the extreme sports is an attempt to run away from like possibly going back to like the poor decisions, or is it like when you're, and again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't do drugs, so I'm not familiar with that world at all. But it's like, who's the free climber?
Alex Honnold.
Yeah, like he does that stuff because he's extremely low dopamine. So I think that's what it is. Doing things to replace something else, So it's like, is it doing these extreme sports to replace the high of drugs? Or do you think that's why it is? Or just, hey, I really like this thing?
It's probably correlated.
Or is it because you're really good at it?
I think it's a bit of both, right? Like I really love being in the mountains and being in nature and exploring and, seeing new things. And so there's definitely a high that comes with that, but it's a positive high compared to using drugs or alcohol to ruin your life, right? And so I think I found this true passion and I just honestly love doing it. And whether I was good or fast or strong at the sport or not, I would still be doing it because I simply love it and it's my passion. And so I think for me, maybe there's an addictive side to my personality that allows me to do these things at the levels that I do, but I channel all of my training and the things that I do into doing these projects and just really being immersed in beautiful locations and with people that I love.